Thank you for staying with us. A story that shook many recently is that of Destiny Boy, the young singer who tragically passed away. Soon after his death, a voice note started circulating online claiming that his mother had cursed him following a disagreement. His mother and sister later came forward to clarify that the disagreement and any alleged curses had nothing to do with his death. This story has left many asking, how do family deal with conflicts, discipline, and misunderstandings, and how these misunderstandings also affect children? What is the right way to handle an erring child without causing harm? To help us answer the questions, we have with us Dr. Enifome Ogbimi, founder of Kids Development Hub and a child development specialist. She will give us real practical guidance on discipline, understanding children's behavior, and how parents can guide their children effectively without fear, guilt, or misunderstanding. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Of course, like to ask our viewers to join the conversation on 0201-635-2012 or 0201-635-2011. And you can tweet to us at TVC Connect using the hashtag YourViewTVC. And we're still streaming live on YouTube. Doctor, you're welcome again.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you know, that particular story really touched us. And a lot of people would say, but we hear these sort of stories a bit, not how it ended, but that usually when parents and children fight, there's, especially African or Nigerian parents, we use some harsh words, some people use curses, and many people say, well, that's how I was raised. In fact, we even make fun of those curses and insults that our parents had, you know, used on us, and we feel like it does not affect us in any way. How would you help our viewers and Nigerians, you know, going for parents especially, to deal with conflict in the home in a healthy way that, you know, impacts positively on the family?
Okay, so conflicts are part of the family environment. So it could be normal conflicts. I mean, if it's everyday conflict, like parents have disagreements or one child is having a squabble with another child, that's totally normal. But where the problem is when the conflict is high. If it's of high intensity, where the parents are tugging at each other, using all kinds of words, that is what becomes a problem. Now, there are different kinds of children in the home. Two children can grow up in that same environment. One will not have it won't have any impact on one, but it will hurt the other one terribly. So those two kinds of children, one we call them the dandelion children, and the others are the orchids. So the orchid are the sensitive ones, and the dandelion are the ones who can adapt to those kind of environment, because high conflict shows that the family environment is toxic, and if nothing is done about it, it can affect the orchid child, which can lead to anxiety, hypervigilance, and it can also affect the way they self-control, right? Because their brains tell them that they do not feel safe and the world does not feel safe. So that's how conflict can impact children in the home environment.
Okay, so I'm a bit concerned about the fact that the example of the story we're using ended up in the person dying. So, but the allegations about curses and all of that, and how Nigerians are now reacting to parental pressure and influence, how would you advise? You know, you already mentioned that understanding the different personality types of each child, but when you find yourself dealing with a very, very stubborn child who is also famous and is being heavily influenced by the fame, people are hailing him and he's getting into his head and it's affecting how he's responding in the house. How would you deal with that situation? Because I think that's like the background of this particular boy's situation that the mother resorted into cursing.
Okay, so there was also a reference to the mom cursing at the child, right? So we need to understand as parents and caregivers that the kind of things we say hit at the identity of the children. Now, we do not know how far back this started. Was it just recent, or it's been going on? Because it is when this thing has been happening over a period of time that it has a negative impact on the child. The other thing that is clear, so before you speak to a child, be sure you are self-regulated. Take a time out when you think you are very, very angry, no matter what the child has done. Take a time out. be regulated, be coordinated, know you're able to manage your emotions before you come out to speak. Because when you say those harsh words in those moments, they become their inner voice. Now, the other thing that is clear is that there was the relationship between the boy and the family was severed. And that is what we call attachment. You cannot discipline a child when the relationship is already severed, right? So that is very important to know. So you need to find out what kind of a child is this and what has been going on from when they were young. That is when you start disciplining and start training them. This boy did not just turn out like this. Something happened along the road, right? Did the parents drop the ball? What happens? Did they do what they were supposed to do? So these are all the background story we need to have that we do not have yet. Otherwise, the boy did not just turn out that way.
Okay, so mothers can scream and shout, parents can, lose it sometimes. But can you tell how far a curse goes? Can you interpret how? Because, the mom and the sister are saying he's not related to his death, but can you really interpret how far it goes when you curse anyone, talk less of your child?
Okay, so like I said, when you are cursing at a child, right? Like I said, it also depends on the kind of a child. When you curse at a child, you use harsh words. It hits at their very identity. And this was a young adult, So you move from the teenage years to the young adult, and the teenage years they have a lot to do with identity. Identity formation begins earlier, but at the teenage years, it is big deal. So when you keep saying those words, they internalize them. And if it happens over a long period of time, it also shows the family is toxic, right? It's a toxic environment. And that child can internalize it, which could lead to depression and can actually lead to that, suicide, right? Because what happens is that one of the core needs of the child is not being met, which we call belonging, right? And people need to understand this. When a child doesn't belong, they feel, I don't belong, because why are you cursing at me? If you have to use this kind of harsh word to me, it means I don't belong. That hits at the core of the identity, and that can actually lead to depression that over time can lead to suicide.
Wow.
Okay, so in the course of all of these things, sometimes when a mother is very upset, you become very harsh and you use all those harsh words. And how do parents, what are your suggestions? What do you think? How do we correct it? How do we come back to our senses and make sure that, the child is on the right path?
Okay, so we don't have a perfect parent, and there are also no perfect children.
Exactly.
Children will push our buttons. They will do things that will annoy you. And that's why I said the first thing you have to do is make sure you are regulated. And if for any reason you accidentally say what you are not supposed to say, repair. We need to repair. Repair means to go back to the child, you apologize, or this is what happened, this is why I did this. And it's also important we understand that we need to separate the child from the behavior. Because usually when things happen like this, and this is one of the reasons why we just go out and begin to curse and yell, we tend to merge the child and the behavior as one. And that is why you begin to see parents say things like, you're not even ashamed of yourself, X, Y, Z, things like that. That is you numbing them together. So there are no good or bad children. When you separate the behavior, you can say, yes, this behavior is unacceptable. Then you address the behavior. And these are the ways you teach and discipline. So discipline is not beating like we've grown up to believe, right? It is not beating, it is teaching and it is guiding, giving the child the right skills so that it can make the right decision that will produce lifelong positive outcome. So that is what discipline is, and that is one way you can help those children in that path.
Doctor, earlier, my first question, I referred to like a culture that we have in our country. It's, I must admit, I think I see a lot of change going on, but very much still a part of our culture is that we use harsh words to correct. And many people have said, I heard those harsh words and they straightened me out. Some people will say, I'd rather they even beat me than open her mouth. My mom should open her mouth and say some words to me. Or when my mom said these words to me, it finally got to me. Is there a way we can still culturally, is it all toxic the way that we have this culture, or is just, and modernity has turned our culture toxic, or is there a way even that we did it that was not toxic, but we can still maintain how we did it without it being toxic? I hope you understand what I mean.
Yes, so saying harsh words is toxic no matter how you see it. Okay. And this is not about our culture, it's about human nature, right? Because when you say that, like I said, it shows the child that they do not belong, right? And so the people who usually say, they did this to me, I grew up well, and this is what helped me, it is not accurate from a psychological perspective, right? What has happened is that they are the ones who call the dandelions, like I referred to. They were able to adapt. They were able to adapt. So they are the ones saying, oh, they yelled at me, they said these things to me, and it helped me, it's shaping me. No, it did not. It left a scar, but somehow they were able to adapt and did what they were able to do. And that is why I said, if you do that to a dandelion, an orchid child, so you can see two children grow up in the same household, you can use the same hash method on them. You're going to see visible impact in one. And then you'll be wondering, okay, so why are you different? That is what it shows. This is an orchid child and this is a dandelion. So the dandelions are the ones that usually say, oh, they flogged me, they spanked me, but I turned out right. You did not turn out right psychologically. You might think you did, but you did not. You only found a way to cope. And if you go through a psychological assessment, you can easily see it. And one of the effects this has had on us is fear. Our brains have been in constant survival mode. It shows that, okay, I'm not safe. And let me bring this in. This is one of the reasons why you find that when we travel abroad, we thrive. Why? Because then our nervous systems are more regulated, they are more calm. And so a child who grows up in the Nigerian atmosphere with harsh words and all of that, they move into an environment where that doesn't happen.
Okay.
It looks abnormal to them at first, but then the body, the nervous system regulates, and then they take it off from there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enifome Ogbimi, for joining us today. We have truly learned so much. You can never know everything when it comes to parenting. We learn every day. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks
and ladies, thank you for a fantastic show. Our viewers, what do you think of our new style? Let's hear from you. Bye. See you tomorrow.